So I would like to introduce Mahmoud. I first met Mahmoud many years ago. We were both working with the Science Innovation Park in Alain at UAU, and we were competing. We were competing against each other in that I was working with Yahya and the team at DeWalk, and Mahmoud was working with a group trying to make the world better for those who are visually impaired. And so he was working with a startup called Braille Eye. And over the course of time, we ended up going to Copenhagen together. And then another person from his team and our team ended up going to pitch at Palace. And in some surreal world, both of our teams found ourselves meeting up with Prince Andrew and going to St. James Palace and Buckingham Palace, and it's beyond weird. But the purpose of this interview is in the spring of 2020, Mahmoud and his team were developing face shields. Before we talk about the face shields, first, Mahmoud, I'd like you to spend a minute telling us about yourself.
Sure. Thank you for the introduction, Steve. So, hello, everyone. My name is Mahmoud, and I actually like to describe myself as a hobbyist. I just enjoy building things. It's been my hobby since I was a kid. And when I say build things, I work on designing things from scratch and then building physical hardware stuff that are actually working. Eventually, that ended up being my job, and part of my job was to create the face shields that Steve was talking about. Yes, I do have an electrical engineering degree, and right now I'm doing my master's in mechatronics and robotics.
It was shortly after the pandemic broke that you guys started modeling different types of face shields. And one of the things that we teach in entrepreneurship is the term of iteration, that you come up with one model, see what works with it. I remember you learned that the white strap doesn't work because people's greasy hair, you've used white strap 5 times and it starts looking disgusting, and so you have to use a black strap. You gave a couple, you had me try, and by the way, you should know that I was their guinea pig. So they designed something, they'd give it to me, and I'd try wearing it, and I'd come back and I'd be like, yeah, this one's not good. It's painful right here, and so they came up. How many different iterations did you come up with before you came up with the final one that you thought this is the best?
Probably over, I don't know, 30, 40 different versions of the face shield. Something you should know is it's not only that we had to design face shields that were proper and friendly for users, and it's also that we had to use whatever that was available for us. Remember that this was during the pandemic. We couldn't really get our hands on all of the things. The visor itself, the piece that covers the face itself, getting our hands in that was a different story. During the pandemic, the quantity that was available in the UAE was completely bought by the government because they wanted to use them in their own face shields as well. The tools that we had are limited to 3D printers and laser cutters, which is not very ideal, I would say, because that limits our choice in materials as well. And if you remember the painful part that you were talking about, that was the very first design, and it actually didn't come from me. What happened is that when I first started working on the project, the person who first started working with the design took a cross-section, basically scan of the Prusa 3D face shield, and the idea was to convert that into a 2D design instead of a 3D design, because we can use then a laser cutter. The only thing we gain out of that is that we can now produce hundreds in a couple of hours instead of waiting for a 3D printer, which takes, I think it was around 2 hours per face shield. So now instead of 2 hours per face shield, we can at least make 50 in 2 hours. But the problem is working with that was not just painful. It was let's just say it's wrong in every aspect. The material was not good. It's acrylic. Acrylic is brittle. It's hard. It's edgy. It's just not proper for this. And if you put it for 5 minutes, you can actually see the lines in your forehead, because You
That one.
remember that, right?
I remember that
Yeah,
one.
so this was like 6 millimeter thick, so you can literally imagine a piece of plastic that is 6 millimeter thick around your head, and that was really painful. It takes like 10 minutes, and then you'll feel the pain already. Add to that the weight of the visor, and just having tightened it around your head is that was a whole painful process. One of the things that we tried is the foam they use as a shock absorbent for heavy devices. So they put at the bottom, so that bottom of the devices, such that it absorbs all the shock, but it's not very spongy. It does feel a bit nicer, but this definitely was not what you need. You would need something at least, either something like 2 inch thick piece of foam, the ones that you can find commercially available right now. We tried stacking multiple of these 6 millimeters together, just to make the surface area bigger, and then we add the foam and everything. That does seem to be working, but then the client who needed the face shields thought, you know what? How about we make it a little bit more useful? These face shields, the doctors keeps complaining that, yes, exactly. They keep complaining that they can't hear their patients, and they needed something that that makes the process of removing the face shield and putting it back a lot easier. Then how about making the face shield movable from the size over here so that you can open it, and then now you can listen, and then you can choose to put it back. But yet again, making things with the available things is not easy task, but at least what was available during that time. Eventually, we created, and do you remember the first face shield that actually can move up and down?
And locked
Uh,
into place from the
uh,
top, which I thought was very impressive. That to me, a lot of the things you did are like impressive engineering feats.
we had really to satisfy the needs for everybody. If the users, we can't really control who gets to use it. It took a lot of iterations and trial and errors of different. So since the plastic piece itself, I made sure that the design can be friendly for both, either a laser cutter or a 3D printer. So if 6 millimeter acrylic is what we bought, then I made sure that the design for that plastic piece is also 6 millimeter. I can either 3D print it or I can laser cut it. Eventually, that worked pretty nice, and we had to use both 3D printers and laser cutters.
Yep.
So the printers, were for the PLA material plastic for the front plastic piece, and the hinges themselves were made of the acrylic plastic. If you wanted to print the hinges part on the 3D printer, that will take you around 30 minutes to 45 minutes for one, versus in a laser cutter, you can make probably 150 in 45 minutes, just pretty. So that was also very helpful. Eventually, we ended up making around 20,000 of these face shields.
Mahmoud, you've been more than helpful. This is you. I one of the things that I consider myself very lucky about is the fact that over the course of the years, I've had the blessing of getting to know some absolutely brilliant people, and pretty much everyone that we were working with at the SIP for that era. I just think you were all unbelievably remarkable, brilliant, and 2017 was, one of the best years of my life. So, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to have me here. Thanks.